Hello everybody. Welcome to the Little Fellow Sports Podcast. And today we've got AR Srikkanth. He's the West Indies cricket team's analyst. He's been with KKR for more than 10 years now, and he's also with the TKR. So hello, Mr. Srikkanth. Hope you're doing good.
Hi, Anirudh. I'm doing very well, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And let's straight delve into the questions. So first of all, so basically, can you tell a little bit about your journey in terms of how it transitioned from you starting off on another field and then moving to cricket? How did that transition begin really?
Um, well, to start off with, um, it wasn't rocket science, and I was always interested in analytics and cricket per se. And when I knew that something like this was there in the market, I tried to just get into that and see if I can make a career out of it. I didn't know if I would work in IPL or with international teams or anything like that. But I knew I had the passion and I had the drive to make something out of it, and that's how it started.
Makes sense. Growing up you watched a lot of cricket. Was cricket always your first sport as such?
Yeah, cricket was always my love. Um, that was probably the only sport I played, and along with a few backyard sports. But yeah, cricket was always my first priority.
All right. Did you play cricket at any level, or was it just
I
sticking to
played.
just loving the game?
No, I played higher division club cricket in Bangalore and in Chennai, and I played zonals in Karnataka. So yeah, decent level at that point of time.
All right. So coming into data analytics, so how did that transition basically come about? When did you start with analytics as such, with impertinence to cricket? So when did it start, and where did it start?
Well, it informally started, say, somewhere between 2006 2007, but I think it took off in 2008 after the invention of IPL. But people started taking it seriously only when they moved away from entertainment, uh, as in IPL being an entertainment point of view, to being more of a serious business model where the franchisees were more serious about putting up a strong team and performance oriented, and they saw what was coming up in returns. So when that process came along, I feel that analytics was taken more seriously than it was when it first started.
Makes sense. So basically, you use the IPL to kind of get into the scheme of things, and then that's how it grew, basically, right?
Well, it was
So
it was there before IPL as well, but people never really gave it a thought, never really took it seriously. It was like more of a, oh yeah, let's try this and see kind of a thing. But once cricket took precedence over everything else, as far as IPL and franchise cricket is concerned, that's when analytics was viewed more seriously, and from there it kicked off.
all right. So obviously, you started working with KKR in 2009, right? So how did it
Yeah.
exactly begin as such? Like, how did you first get in contact with KKR? Or did they contact you, or how has it been in general to work with KKR for such a long period? Because did you actually think that you'd be here for this long?
Well, to answer your question in different parts, how I got into KKR was I used to work with another firm before, and they were the service providers, a back end team which worked with KKR in 2008. So that company decided to send me to Night Riders as part of their front end analyst. So when I went to Night Riders, I worked with Night Riders in 2009 and 2010 as part of that company. And then I parted ways with that company and I joined Night Riders directly as employee initially. And then I moved on from being an employee to more of a consultant role because I was working with other leagues around the world as well. So that is the first part of your question. The second part of your question was, how's it been working with Night Riders for so many years? Well, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Being with a franchise for almost 12 years now, that's a blessing, and I take a lot of pride in representing my franchise and doing the best I could to put together a strong team which can please the fans as well as bring accolades to the franchise. Having said that, I I do not uh, think of how it would be if I stick to a franchise for 10 years or more, or not only with cricket, with anything in life. I do not look too far ahead. So I like to live in the present. I like to stay in the moment and take things as it comes.
All right. So, I mean, it's been an absolutely brilliant journey for you. It's been very successful also, not just with KKR, with TKR as well. You've won 4 titles with TKR. So, obviously, it's been very, very fruitful for all parties, I guess. So, but I wanted to specifically ask you about the 2011 auction because that's when KKR's fortunes turned as such, right? Because for the first 3 years, it was a run of inconsistency and KKR weren't really able to perform to the full potential. So going into the 2011 auction, obviously your three main purchases were Gambhir, Yusuf Pathan, and Jack Callis. So going into the auction, which is very dynamic and you can't really predict how it runs, was it a case of no matter what we get these three guys, or how was the approach going into the 2011 auction?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. If you look at the team that KKR had in the first 3 years of IPL, our overseas players were very good. We had a lot of experienced overseas players and a lot of caliber in the overseas players. But in the domestic players, except a few names like Dada, and we had Ajit, we had Murli Karthik. Ishant was just coming up, just started playing for India at that point of time. Barring these known Indian names, there weren't any dynamic Indian players in our team, especially in the first few years. And if I look back at it right now, I would probably say that there was no strategy as such when they picked the team in 2008. I don't. I would not say that not only KKR but every other team did not really have a clue as to how IPL would be received, how IPL has to be formulated, or how a team should play IPL. It was not the idea when teams were put together, or teams picked players in 2008. That evolved over time. So it is unfair to say, from my point of view, that KKR's fortunes in from 2008 to 2010 did not do well, and then we started doing it from 2011. We learned what we did not do well from 2008 to 2010, and then we tried to implement or try and bring a structure as to how we would approach an auction and how we would like to have a team base, and who is going to be our core. So those ideas and those strategies were put in place in 2011, and the results are there to be seen for everyone. And when we went into the 2011 auction, we did not go in there saying that we have to get player X, Y, and Z. We went there with a strategy. We went there with a formula saying that, okay, these are the roles that we are looking to fill, and these are the players that we would like to have. It could have been anyone. It could have been Mahela Jayawardene as a captain, who was one of her choices actually. And it could have been, instead of Yusuf Pathan, it could have been, someone else. Like I can't think of someone right now. Maybe Raidu, or someone else. It just so happened that it was Yusuf who was the player whom we picked for the role that we had in mind. So we
Makes
did not
sense.
go with player names and then fill roles. We went with roles and then fill player names.
So basically, you have several options, and based on whatever the dynamic of the auction is, you went about going like that.
You can't really go to an auction and pinpoint and say that I will get this player no matter what. That can't happen. The
Yeah.
dynamics of auction is such that it is unpredictable. So you need to go into an auction with plan A, B, and C, and you need to be happy and content with whoever you pick within that plan that you have.
Yeah. And after 2011, you had two other auctions, 12 and 14, where you picked Sunil Narain and Andre Russell. And there's no question that those two have been pillars of KKR. So, what was the thinking behind getting these two? Because they've turned out to be one of the probably top five greatest ever T20 players. They've had such a huge impact season after season. So, what was the thinking behind getting those two? Because at that point, when you picked them, they had performances behind them, but consistency and uh, you can say that the guarantee of them doing so well wasn't there at that point, right?
Yeah. First and foremost, I would give credit to the players for the way they have performed, and for the way they have put in the hard work and the time to be where they are at this point of time. without their efforts or without their dedication, I don't think we would have got the best out of them, or we wouldn't have seen what they were possibly able to do. Sorry. Having said that, when we went into the auction in 2012, we were pretty sure that we wanted Sunil, and we had allocated a certain budget for him. And we did our research, we did our scouting, we saw that how different he was, and we wanted to add that element to the team. So we went hard for Sunil, and I think we beat Mumbai Indians in the final bid, and we got him. And in 2014, when Russell was unsold in the first round, we decided we'll make a dash for Russell. Uh, but obviously, because he was unsold, a lot of other teams also had used up their purse to buy other players. So we didn't have a budget as such for Russell, but we were fortunate enough to get him for a very, very low price in 2014. But we knew what Russell was capable of. We knew what he could do. But with Sunil Narayan, it was a kind of unknown element that he brought onto the table, and the kind of mystery that he brought on along with his bowling. So that was one of the main decisions with regards to Sunil. But with Russell, we knew what he was capable of, and we wanted to invest in Russell and see how we could go.
Makes sense. And talking about this year, you obviously had the revelation of Varun Chakravarti. He was with the Kings 11 last year. Obviously, went for Big Bun even last year, but he got injured and he didn't really play much last season. But in an interview I saw, Varun clearly said that he was part of the KKR nets back then itself, even before the 2019 auction, and that KKR have been tracking him for a while. So, when did you first spot Varun, and was it after only the TNPL, or you had him in mind for quite a while?
No, no, no. He came. TNPL happened after the IPL in 2018. So when 2018 IPL happened, Dinesh Karthik told me that there was some bowler that he heard of who went and bowled in the nets, and he was quite impressive. So he wanted to track down the name. He didn't know the name. He wanted to. He just gave me his first name or his last name. I can't remember exactly. So he wanted me to track down who that player was and try and get him over to the nets. And he didn't see. He hadn't seen Varun until then. So he only knew by word of mouth that someone was there. So and then made a few phone calls, tracked the guy down, brought him over to the nets, and then he bowled at the nets. We saw what he had, and we thought that he was quite impressive. And we wanted to. I think he stayed for about 20-25 days with Knight Riders in 2018 during the IPL, and he bowled to all the players, and we were highly impressed. He was highly impressive, and we were impressed with him. At that point of time, I think one of our players was injured, and we had the opportunity to take a replacement player. We could have taken Varun at that point of time, but his name was not registered in the auction, so we did not pick him in 2018. Otherwise, he would have been a 20 lakh player back then. And then in 2019 auction, yes, Kings 11 got him for 8 crores, but Kings 11 got him after beating the last bid against KKR. So KKR was the one who bid till 7.5 crores for Varun in
Yeah.
2019. So let's not discount the fact that KKR bid for him even in 2019, knowing what potential he had, irrespective of whether he played one game or he didn't play one game or he got a wicket or he didn't get a wicket. We knew the potential that he had. And that is the reason, again, why as soon as he was released by Kings 11, we said, okay, he is one of our main players that we're looking to target, and we will have a certain budget for him. And we went hard for him. We got him for less than what we anticipated he would go for. And yeah, the results are there to be seen by everyone.
I mean, Varun was an absolute revelation this season. As you said, his only game turns out for Kings 11 was actually against KKR, where Narayan took him down, but then obviously he didn't get an opportunity after that. But obviously, credit to you guys and credit to Varun himself to make a comeback. I mean, considering the price tag and all that, he must have had a lot of pressure, but he was absolutely brilliant. And he deserved the India call up, obviously. Very unlucky that he got injured after that. So, talking a little bit about analytics, you obviously with the West Indies as well right now. So working with the guys like Pollard, Russell, Bravo, all these experienced T20 players, how do they view analytics and data as? Do they look at it in such a way that it's something we need, or how is their perspective? And the fact that you worked with these guys before, how much does it help now that you're in the West Indies setup?
Well, first and foremost, it was Pollard who got me on board with the West Indies cricket team. So I should be thankful to him. Obviously, it was supported by Sunil and Bravo because they know me quite well. And they got me on board because they saw something in me, and they felt that I could be of help to them to get to a certain goal. So that is how I came on board with the West Indies cricket team. As far as how they perceive and how they receive what I do, it is very, very, very well received by them. All the players, youngsters, and the senior players, the management, they are extremely supportive, and I'm very well respected over here in West Indies cricket, which I'm very thankful for. And what the way I put things across to them is, I do not say this is how you need to play cricket. I tell them, this is my suggestion. What do you think about it? Every cricketer has his own instincts, which he needs to follow, which is what I think as well. But at the same time, you can look at suggestions, and that might open up a different dimension to your ideas that you have in mind as a cricketer. So that is where I come into play. So I'm here to be an additional support to what the captain or the coach or the players themselves think when they go into a match. I'm not here to tell them how to play cricket. I'm here to assist them. I'm here to support them. And I'm here to supply them with additional information and additional intelligence on opposition.
Makes sense. So it's obviously it's very very useful for you that they are understanding of what your role is and how you can assist them, so that it's not there's a clear pathway as to what each person does, and eventually that obviously helps the team. So last couple of questions. So obviously yesterday also we saw the news of KKR going and investing in another franchise in the MLC, and you obviously got the TKR also. How do you view this cross franchise connections, and how do you think this helps the game grow globally? Because for each league you have either a draft or an auction system, so you try to scout players accordingly. And generally, as a brand, how do you think this affects the whole thing?
Well, it's a very good sign for franchise cricket, and our traders are, leading the way, and being an setting an example in acquiring franchisees at different levels, and trying to expand the brand, and make it a more truly global brand. From a cricketing aspect, it'll provide a lot of opportunities to players to showcase the talent. It'll unearth the new talents. It'll develop new players. It'll develop grassroots level cricket in whichever country you're playing in. And it's good from a cricketing aspect as well as a non-cricketing aspect, from a commercial aspect as well, for the franchise to dedicate itself and involve in a league, and try and help the league to have a structure, and get some talent on board, and showcase the talent to the entire world. Um, Congratulations to Mr. Venki Mysore and the ownership for taking this decision, and being successful in launching a new, or acquiring a new franchise for the Knight Rider Sports Private Limited.
Right. So now we're into the final round, the rapid fire round. Just a few questions here. So you've obviously been part of T20 cricket. You've been part of cricket for the best part of 11, 12 years now. You've seen the highs, the lows, different kind of games. But if there's one game which you feel is the best T20 game you've been part of live, which one would it be?
There are a few games like that. I don't know which one to pick. Okay, I'll pick 2014 semifinals against
All right. And now your favorite scout pick?
Shubman Gill.
Shubman Gill, obviously. One pick you wanted to make but you couldn't. I've read a little bit about it, but you can say.
Rashid Khan.
Rashid Khan. Okay, I knew that. And how about Jofra Archer as well?
Rashid was Rashid was more personal than Jofra. I would go with Rashid.
Makes sense. So you've obviously worked with a lot of class batsmen and bowlers over the years. Which one batsman and which one bowler have you loved working with the most?
Fast bowler or a spinner?
Fast bowler.
One fast bowler I love working. Um, there are a few names, but I would pick Pat Cummins for his professionalism, and his the way he looks at cricket, the way he looks at the sport itself, and the way he carries himself. And one batsman, um, I like what Pollard brings to the table, in terms of his leadership, in terms of his, he's got a very, very very good cricketing brain, and I like that aspect of Pollard as a complete cricketer for T20. But batting alone, I like Surya Kumar Yadav. I like talking cricket with Surya.
Okay. And is there one tactic of yours which worked brilliantly at any point? One moment which you suggested to the team implemented it and worked perfectly fine for you?
If there is not one moment, then I wouldn't be sitting in KKR for 12 years. There are many moments, and I would pick the 2020 IPL KKR against CSK. On both occasions, we planned as to how we will bowl to Dhoni, and it was pinpoint.
Yeah, that worked really well. I mean, both times Barun got him out, right? So, yeah.
Pinpoint accuracy, and that's how we dismissed Dhoni in both the games. So I was pretty satisfied with that.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Data or instincts?
Instincts.
Instincts. All right. And finally, Shah Rukh Khan or Rajinikanth?
Rajinikanth.
All right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Srikkanth. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and thanks a lot for taking your time. And thank you once again. Thanks to all of the viewers. Please do like, share, subscribe to our podcast, and we'll have a lot more content. And thank you so much, Mr. Srikkanth, again.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Anirudh. Thanks for having me on the show. It was nice talking to
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
Cheers, man.